One of the most disgusting aspects of the Epstein scandal is how many heinous crimes were done in the dark, completely secret to the public. And new reporting shows that FBI interviews, storage lockers used by Epstein, and even survivor statements have not yet been released to the public. We know about the redactions, we know about the sealed names, but what is inside these lockers will disgust you. It is absolutely heinous that search warrants weren't able to actually reveal what was in a lot of these lockers, which reportedly have existed for years. According to newly reported inventory documents, many of these lockers that Jeffrey Epstein has used contained nude photos believed to be victims, sex toys and materials tied to abuse, VHS tapes, books about domination and control, and multiple computers and electronic devices with sexually explicit material. The most disgusting part, these lockers have reportedly existed for years, and search warrant records suggest some storage units connected to Epstein may never have been fully searched by authorities even when they had those search warrants to have that. Think about that. We're talking about a global sex trafficking investigation involving some of the most powerful people in the world, and evidence may have been untouched. This comes as lawmakers have already confirmed FBI interview pages are missing, portions of investigative record appear incomplete. So the question isn't whether or not Epstein did a lot of these crimes, it's how much evidence has never been collected or never been released from these investigations. Representative Ro Khanna, who has been one of the strongest leaders of releasing these Epstein documents along with Thomas Massey, reported that transparency problem goes even deeper. According to Khanna, as many as 90 survivor statements may not have been released to the public. This is an article from Mediaite where Ro Khanna credits Lawrence O'Donnell with sparking Epstein files revelation. You were instrumental. This statement from Khanna says there's the possibility that Thomas and I are talking to Congress to build a bipartisan coalition to say, look, it's not just these three interviews that concern Donald Trump, said Khanna. There has been now reporting that 90 survivor statements have not been released just by a review of these files. And we're not even talking about the redactions. They just have not produced these things. 90, 90. We're talking about 90 victims who are still hidden from public view. Media coverage has helped connect him with a lot of these survivors for Ro Khanna for disclosure. And now he's working with Thomas Massey and other Republicans on possible legal action to force full release of the remaining files. This is not just a hit piece on Donald Trump. He's currently getting dragged because of the heinous crimes that he's involved in. This really is about victims getting justice, the public actually finding out how pervasive this corruption is in institutions, and whether or not powerful people can just get away with the worst crimes simply for who they are. But those powerful people get away with so much because they have institutional help in order to cover up these crimes. Some of the most powerful PR people in Hollywood have protected Epstein and other perpetrators for decades. This article from The Hollywood Reporter says inside Jeffrey Epstein's spin machine, how Hollywood's top PR kingpins defended him. The latest batch of documents reveals a previously hidden history of spin carried out by some of the most high profile names in Hollywood's reputation management game. Remember, Epstein still remained relevant even after his first convictions of being a sexual predator. And a large part of that was because Epstein hired some of the most powerful crisis communicators in Hollywood and New York. These weren't small operators. These were elite reputation managers whose job it was to suppress negative stories, reframe media narratives, pitch favorable coverage, and most importantly, recruit powerful public defenders, what insiders call validators. Epstein also worked with Marie Spaeth, a White House director of media relations during Ronald Reagan's administration. She's best known for advising the Swift Boat Veterans for Truth, the right wing veterans group that attacked 2004 Democratic presidential candidate John Kerry's Vietnam War record. According to Bloomberg's review of a trove of emails that the outlet obtained from Epstein's personal Yahoo email account, Spaeth helped Epstein pen drafts of a public apology in 2008, which was never released. This was months before he pled guilty to a Florida state charge of procuring an underage prostitute. She also provided media coaching on how to respond to anticipated inquiries about these predations. When Bloomberg asked her about this, she said she ultimately terminated the engagement because of my discomfort with it. Bullshit. You terminated it because Epstein is now known as one of the most heinous sexual predators in modern American history. Immediately after Epstein completed his probation in August of 2010, the publicist R. Courier, whose experience was mostly with New York's society figures, luxury brands, and institutions like the Lincoln Center, sent him a detailed strategy proposal to help resurrect his image, outlining a cost of between 15,000 and 20,000 per month on a 6 to 12-month retainer agreement. You have a very colorful story, but it's not all black, nor is it strictly black and white, he wrote Epstein. I can help you turn your reputation around. Jesus Christ. Remember, these are high profile lawyers, former officials, and well connected figures willing to publicly vouch for Epstein. And it worked. After his 2008 conviction, Epstein didn't disappear. He remained a socialite in New York. He rebuilt his social network, he kept his access, and he kept his power. Because when you have enough money and connection, the strategy isn't just denying that you did crimes, it's controlling the narrative. It's spinning what the public pays attention to. And many of those validators later distanced themselves after the full scope of Epstein's crimes became undeniable. But that was only after it was released to the public. These disgusting people were totally fine rebranding the image of a terrible man when it was in private that they knew how bad it was. Now that the public knows, many are running and saying, I never had anything to do with this, just like Mary Spade. When you put all of this together, a clear pattern is visible. People that have immense amounts of wealth and influence and power are able to distract the public from the crimes that they actually commit. Evidence has not been fully completed, files still remain incomplete, survivor accounts are unreleased, and it was a billionaire who hired elite PR firms to hide exactly what he was doing from those that were even in his own social circle. This isn't just a predator. This is a system where wealth bought protection, reputation management firms shaped reality, and institutions moved slower than the power that actually was corrupting these victims. That same Mediaite article that we looked at before says that in Epstein's locker, the full rundown goes in plenty of directions, including 11 boxes containing sex toys, 2 books about erotic slavery and domination, copies of barely legal and similar magazine titles, as well as a wide VHS collection, including everything from Raging Bull to Rush Hour to multiple volumes of South Park. Although copies of 2 of the computer hard drives were recovered by the FBI years later, it is not known whether any of the material in the lockup was ever found, the Telegraph reported, noting that available search warrants suggest the lockers were not raided. They knew the contents that were in these lockers, and it still was not released to the public or added to any investigation. This is why the Epstein story keeps coming back up, because every new revelation reveals the same exact questions. Who knew about these crimes? Who helped Epstein cover it up? And who hasn't been held accountable yet? That's why the Epstein story isn't even really about Epstein primarily himself. It is really a test of whether or not accountability is actually applied to the powerful and the wealthy. Because the message is clear right now. If you are powerful enough, the truth becomes optional. You don't actually have to be held accountable for your crimes. And that's why lawmakers are pushing for full disclosure, why victims continue to keep fighting to make their stories heard, and why the story isn't going away. Because until every file is released, until every survivor's statement is actually heard, and every connection is investigated, this case is not closed. It's just unfinished.